Kids education. So we're gonna have names underneath. Bar bouncing right here. See that? Because if it stops bouncing, there's no audio.
Cool, thumbs up. All right, welcome everyone to week 3 of RITSec. If you have not already, please head over to signin.ritsec.club so we know you're here and you get all the cool member benefits. We should have left the music playing for this. Oh, we should have left the music playing for this.
That's all right.
That's all good. I can try. Is that better? Wow, I hear myself. That's awful. All right, while you're doing that, let's give a quick thank you to our sponsors. Without them, we couldn't do all the fun things that we do. I didn't say stop. Keep going. All right, so if you are interested in getting some dope swag and match some of us cool kids, head on over to swaginterest.ritsec.club. This is not an order form, this is an interest form. We have to make sure that enough people want to buy stuff before we just send all of our money to them. I think you've seen them around. I saw a lot. Mike and I were walking around the other day and we saw like 4 people with these sweatshirts on in SysLab, so that was pretty cool. Also, I just want to take a moment to notice, the dude has the strings tucked into his hoodie, and that's awful. All right, career fair is coming up. So if you have not signed up for Handshake, I highly recommend you do it. Go on over to app.joinhandshake.com, sign up, and say that you're going to career fair so they let you in the door. It's not a great time. I hate career fair, but it's kind of necessary if you want a job, so I highly recommend it. On Tuesday, the 17th, we're going to be doing a resume review, so you can come by there. We can help you kind of clean up your resume. If you haven't written one before, we can kind of point you in the right direction and help everyone get all the cool co-ops that they need to graduate. Movie night, I talked about this last week, but we're watching Swordfish this Sunday at 6:30 in 1400. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Highly recommend it. We'll have some snacks. If you want to bring your own, go for it. We have a ton of Oreos left over from Hackathon, but according to Shannon, you need your own milk. So, BYOM. We're doing some new stuff with the stream this week. We're streaming on YouTube and Twitch. So if any of you guys are watching live in the interwebs, head on over to twitch.tv/RITSec. We're going to have some cool stream features like a stream starting soon kind of thing, and we're going to be legit security streamers. We're trying something new for news this week, so if you have anything you want to talk about, send it over to Ian sometime in the next hour or so. He'll kind of take a look at it, and we're kind of using what the news the members want to talk about instead of just the stuff we find, because you guys find cool stuff too, and we want to hear about it. All right, the Windows VM for this week is kind of big because Windows. So I recommend if you plan on doing the demo, start downloading now. I think it's like 10 gigs. Yeah. Just wait. They'll get bigger. But yeah, so just give it a little time to download so you can hop right into demo when that gets started. All right, so last week we mentioned if anyone that had completed the challenges were interested in giving a quick presentation and talk about the solutions and how they got to the solutions, you can come up here and work on your public speaking skills. My public speaking skills suck, and the only reason they get better is because I stand up here and talk to you every week. So I highly recommend you come do this. Just submit them to me or Troy. We'll take a look over. If they look cool, we'll let you come up and present. So this week we have Tenchi coming to talk about the Linux challenges from last week. Just kind of clip this on so they can hear on the stream and take it away.
Just clip it here.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you got to talk to it now.
Oh,
That's
okay.
That's the stream one.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tenchi. I'm a first-year computing security student here at RIT. Just a little bit about myself. I'm from Las Vegas. That's the biggest thing, I guess. Okay. How do I do this? Error? Okay. So for the Linux challenge, demo week 2, and it's just my other name that I use. Okay. So for easy one. So we can see that the first flag says find the OS version. So how Jack talked about in last week's education that the etc files have pretty cool stuff and like all the other files, and he explained that. So I tried looking into the etc file, and look what we find here. oh, we find OS release, but oh no, it's gone. Darn. So right there in the hint, it says check the man pages for OS release for additional hint. And if we man OS release, we can see that it's also located in another directory called library user or user library. It's right here. Yeah, user library. So we find OS release at the very top, and we cat that, and voila, we get pre-name for easy1. So that's the flag for easy1 for demo 2. Okay, for the next flag, this is easy2. So easy2 talked about that we needed to find a backup file. So if we looked into our directories a little bit further, we can find that in our home directory for easy, we can see easy2 directory. So we just get in there, and wow, we have a text file. Let's read that. And then we see, oh, welcome junior security engineer. Go to this. Then we go there, and now we see a bunch of directories containing a bunch of years, dates, and also README. Let's try that. Wow, base64 message and stuff. So if you end up decoding the base64 of the message, it says the file can be found with the month, date, year. So what I did was I did the command, Linux command find tech name, the month, date, and year. And so for the syntax for the name part, the asterisk is anything after that. It can be anything, but we only needed the specific day and year. So we find it in that directory, and we find our file. So if we cat the file, we find the flag. So that's gotta find them all. Go Pokemon, yay. All right, so for medium 1, we just need to find the flag. We look through directories, find it. Oh, wow, it's in home. Look, wow, cool. Okay, so we see that if we cat the medium 1, the medium text, or yeah, I think it's a text file. We just get this long 90,000 text file, 90,000 line text file that says, what is this? RS stuff. And we need to find the flag in there because it's located in there. There's no other thing besides medium 1 in the VM. So what I used was grep. I still don't have a fuller understanding, but I hope to learn more about grep because it's really useful and it's going to come handy in the future. So I didn't. I was very limited in the knowledge that I had with grep, so I ended up using a Python script. So I just basically copy and pasted it, and then just ran it in a for loop and just got it for alphanumerical characters. So right there, you see in the terminal, the flag. It's missing a couple letters. I'm not quite sure why, but I'm going to look into it and figure it out a little bit more in the future. Okay, for medium 2, it says log in as user medium 2. Okay, how do we do that? So early in the presentation, we found out we can SSH secure shell, or yeah, secure shell. I think that's the correct name. But we can SSH into the VM using our own PCs. So yeah, let's try that. Let's try like the SSH method of getting into that user. We just we're going to look through directories, and we find a medium 2 directory, and which contains these files and directories. Jack mentioned that for .bash history contains all the command line prompts that the user entered before. So for other previous users, this wasn't accessible. But I saw that this was accessible, so I tried to open the file, and I got this message, which is dealing with SSH encryption, I think. Yeah, SSH. And then, oh, it created private keys and public keys. OK, let me look in the directory that this user created called .ssh. And this is what we find. So we find a authorized keys file ID RSA and ID RSA.pub. So I did some research in what SSH was, and this was the ID RSA is the private key, and the ID RSA.pub is the public key. Yes. And so if we if we man paged SSH, we can connect using the private key to a user. This user being medium2. So if we looked in the previous slide, and the ID RSA.pub, we can see that the user is medium2 at evilcore.com. Right, they're medium2. So this is going to be the medium2 user's public and private key. And so we're going to do SSH tag I, ID RSA being the private key. That's the tag I is going to be the identity file of the private keys, which is the ID RSA. And then we're going to SSH into medium2 user at the IP for the VM, and we get it. So we reload the intro.py Python script, and from there, from the home directory of medium2, we're going to cat the file called medium2 flag.txt, and we have our flag. Yeah, just ignore Go. We'll talk about that in the next slide. But medium flag.txt, and we have our flag. Okay, hard. This took a lot of time. This took me about 4 days. So wow, we need to get this hard bread. This is very hard. So in the hint of the hard flag, we saw that do not cat in big cap letters yelling at us saying do not cat this file. But just take a little peek of it to show what it was. So just head hard, which prints a few lines of the file. And so okay, we don't know what this file is. It gives us a lot of question marks. Oh, let's see. Let's figure it out. So we need to first identify the file. So what we used was the file command. Okay, we used the file command, file tag I, and we found out that it was a gzip file. But if you want to step a little bit further, if we decompressed, so file tag iz, and we decompressed the hard file, we found that it was tar.gz. So what I did was I unzipped the tar file, and then the gzip file, and then unzipped the thing. So if we look in this directory right here, so hard was a tar.gz. So we first unzipped the tar file, and then we got the go.xxx.yyy, and then we gzipped the file, which is gave us go.payload and a readme.txt. I'm pretty sure that's how I did it. I'm not quite sure how I did it, but I think this is how I did. I'll probably look into the future. If you have any questions, please ask me, or people who have more experience. So if we unzip the go.xxx.yyy, we get the go.payload and the readme.txt in the directory. So it gives us this angry sysadmin message saying, oh, this payload thing is really weird. It has a lot of, it was encoded a bunch of times and all that. So if we, okay, if we open the payload, we get this format of a byte and then hex and then some ASCII. So with this format, I found out was that it's a hex dump format. So what I did was reverse the hex dump and just get the ASCII characters. So that's the format. It's just the beginning, though. It's a lot of lines. From the previous flag of EZ2, we found out that we saw a base64 encoded message. So I kind of paralleled that to this one because it started with the V. That's the only thing I saw similar. And so I tried base64. Oh, yeah. I tried base64 a lot of times. I tried base64 once. I got really stuck, and then I stopped for a while. And then I kept on researching this specific, just the few lines of the beginning. And I found this little article said that if you keep on base64 base64ing and encode a message, it will eventually end up with this kind of format. So I was like, oh, okay, that looks really similar to the unzipped or or the ASCII of go.payload. So I just brute forced it because I have limited knowledge, but I do look forward to learning Bash script because I don't want to write base64 techd 40 times all the time. So, and what's really interesting is that every time you piped it, the output into base64, it got smaller and smaller and smaller. The text just kept on getting smaller, like as you base64 a bunch of times, which was really cool. I thought it was really cool. So things that I learned that could be applicable to first year. Don't give up. I know it took a while for me to figure out all the flags, but I think since we're first years, especially for me, I really lacked knowledge and I really wanted to learn a lot from RITSec and security stuff in general. So I just kept on pursuing, with the limited knowledge I had, I can apply it to, these challenges that I can solve. Okay, always ask questions. So the biggest helper was Choi, who helped me with a lot of the flags, which I really appreciate. Some things that I wasn't able to do during previous challenges, like the hackathon that the RTSec Club hosted. I felt like I couldn't ask questions, but now I feel more comfortable getting out there and asking more questions. Okay, don't be afraid to get help from peers and mentors. I'd like to give a shout out to Michael Berg, Braden, and Ryan, who we did a little group meet and we kind of just sat down and solved the Demo 2 challenges, which I really appreciate. And thanks, guys. And it's okay to not know anything. We're here to learn. Coming from zero, I don't have a lot of security background or programming experience. So there's an expectation. I see peers around me that have a lot of experience in networking and security, and you always seem to compare to other people, but I think we should steer away from that as first years and learn as much as we can with a humble and unbiased view. Yeah. Oh, and then one more, always seek challenges. Get out there, go do stuff, but don't overwork yourself. It's important. Get sleep. Okay. Yes.
So Kenshi did a really great job. For future reference, you only need to do one challenges, presentation, and write-up, because we also have education right after. And, yeah, but he really went above and beyond with it. So thank you, Kenshi.
Thank you, Troy.
Freshman problems.
That's all good. Sorry, you're good, dude. Woo! Is that bar all right there, everyone? Does this sound good? Alrighty. So without further ado, we're gonna do some Windows. So, oh, hold up, I don't like this. We're changing this. This is tiny. Here we go. Alrighty, so what is Windows? Windows itself is a graphical operating system, so it's really structured based off the GUI. Unlike Linux, it's really based off of the command line, and there's GUIs that can go along with it to help you out. Windows is more based off the graphics, and there's a lot of features in the graphical user interface. So the kernel is called Windows NT. So Windows NT stands for New Technology, and they kind of stopped using that, but it's still in the kernel version. When you go look at the kernel, it says Windows NT version, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is what a lot of this is what the workstations and the servers are built off of. So for servers, this is think of like an Active Directory type deal. There's a lot of Windows servers run normally Active Directory. They can run DHCP, DNS, web servers. They can run all sorts of stuff. And then there's the more unfamiliar Windows IoT, which you can run on like a Pi. I don't know why you would do that. They already are pretty stressed out as it is. But so Windows NT though is the most popular version. As you all know, a lot of you are probably running Windows, and it's also super popular in the enterprise environments, which is you'll see a lot of that, and it's super monetizable skill. is to know how to do Windows stuff, because everyone runs a Windows server usually. Even in most Linux-based environments, Active Directory is so strong and gives you such fine-grained control over the users with group policy and the actual user permissions that it has, that a lot of people do run it. Alrighty, let's get into the file system. So file system, the primary file system on Windows is NTFS, which is New Technology File System that they made. This is unlike Linux normally runs the ext4, or there's a couple other variants, and then you get flash drives with FAT32, and there's a couple other of that too. But NTFS is what Windows primarily uses. And in the NTFS, guys, if you pull up your File Explorer, you'll see it has a C drive normally, is the primary drive in that. And as you add more drives to NTFS, it'll give it a letter name. So you can access those drives by a letter name. So say D, or F, E, etc. If you go in the lab machines, they also have like the deep freeze as well. So some important directories we're going to get into in Windows is users. So users is kind of like the home directory in Windows, like the home directory that Linux has. It has all the users' data and has all the stuff for each specific user in there. And then we have, and this is C:/users and C:, all these are C:. So you got C:/Windows, which is where the entire operating system is, kind of all the important critical operating system type files, and is like all the DLLs and everything is in here. And then in there, System32, I'm sure everyone's heard the System32 meme or something at some point, so you all should be a little familiar with that. So that's like delete System32. It stores everything that's like super vital, the DLLs, the executables, and we can go on for DLLs for a while, but this is just what actually makes the operating system run and actually do stuff. And it's super protected now. Before you could just delete it, like with the memes, but now you can't really delete it as much. As easily as just going in there and pressing delete. There's some special things you have to do to get there. Program files and program files x86 kind of go hand in hand. So if you have a 64-bit version of Windows, you'll have both. If you don't, you'll only have program files. But on 64-bit, that's where all your 64-bit programs will be installed. And then if you don't, this is where all your 16 and 32-bit programs will be installed. But going back to if you have 64-bit, then you'll have all your, if you have not a 64-bit, then it will be, the x86 won't be there. But if you do, then all your 16 and 32-bit programs will be in the x86 folder. And program data is just where kind of all the data that all the users need to access is kind of thrown into this folder. Am I going too fast? Does anyone have any questions so far? Slow down. All right. Windows Registry. This is the fun one. This is my favorite. Everyone likes it. It's super easy to use. It's great. It is. It's awesome. It's fantastic. You can do a lot of fun stuff. So it's kind of a hierarchical database. It has pretty much all it has in there is just configuration options. So with that, you can do a lot of fun stuff. And programs don't always have to use the registry, but you can, and you can always do it in a malicious way as well. And this is what you got to look out for as blue teamers and red teamers use it a lot. So what is a key? A key is kind of it's kind of just a variable inside the registry. And this is so there's a bunch of files in here, and this is what the programs use to access it. So a key can be a string, a D word's it's kind of like it's a weird Windows int type deal. You put arrays, binary values, etc. A bunch of different kind of data types in there, and you can do a lot with that with reading and writing from a program. So there are 5 super important what are called H keys. So those are the root keys in the registry, and the H key local system is where all the local system defaults are. So this is what all the users will default to when you start up and use a system. Then there's H current config. And this is all the stuff that's happening at runtime. So every time you reboot, it won't persist. It will come back as something else. H key classes root is where information about registered applications that's where they kind of store a lot of their data and configurations in this area. And then H key current user and H key users kind of go hand in hand as well. So H key user has all the current users like file configurations. If you open it up, you can, if you say you're logged in, say I'm logged into John, my user, then John is a subsection of H key users. And if you open H key current user as I'm logged in as John, I can see all of my configurations. So that's where all that will happen. Anyone have any questions about the registry that I could possibly answer? It's kind of just a general overview. Awesome. All right. So users and groups in Windows, and this is what really makes Windows different from the Linux and Unix systems. So they're all granted for security. What Windows does is they grant them all a security identifier, and this is a SID, an SID. So each user and group and session all get SIDs, and they use that to authenticate and check for Windows. Or they use that in Windows authentication. And there's lots of different groups in Windows with varying permissions by default, and then you can also create your own. And then the highest level in Windows is the administrative group. So this is kind of like the root on a workstation. This is kind of like the root. This is kind of can do all, be all. And then on top of that, to build even more layering and security, they added more users to kind of separate and isolate privileges. So local system is the system. It has all the it does similar stuff to administrator. It runs all the core and critical services that need like super high privileges. This is the user, one of the users you really want to protect. If somebody gets system, it's not, you don't want that. It's not a good look. And then they made another user called Trusted Installer. This is kind of handles all the installing of everything. It doesn't have as many. It has a lot of privileges, but it focuses more on installing the programs to the operating system. And then there's the local service and the network service users, which handle more of those not needing as much privileged service running. So you don't have to run everything as that system, or it would be the equivalent to Linux would be root. So you don't want to run everything as that user. Alrighty, user process permissions. This is handled in a special way in Windows. It's all resolved around tokens, which are created on login. So this tokens they have SIDs and privileges in them, and this is what Windows uses to kind of verify what's going on, what you can and can't do. So the privileges, here's some dangerous privileges you have to look out for once you start investigating tokens. Is the SE debug name. This is like you don't want that. You don't want this is normally something you don't want, say in a competition. If you see this is not a good look. You don't want that. It's a very bad thing. And then you guys kind of just go over the other couple. They just allow you to take ownership of certain things, replace process level tokens, and then you can act as part of the operating system. These are all permissions that you kind of want to look out for in a competition environment and keep an eye out for. One way you can check on this is I'm going to pronounce that tool. You can use that tool to look at. It's on the command line, and we'll go more in the command line shortly. iCackles, is that how you pronounce it? All right. You can use iCackles to look through the file permissions and the tokens. Alrighty. This is what I just learned a ton about in the last couple days, is user access control. And you all probably have seen it before and not even noticed it. Who's here is who's right-clicked and run as admin? Yeah, that's what this is. So what Windows implemented and around Vista time is they wanted to isolate the levels of the integrity levels of what program could do. So what they did is they set up this untrusted low, medium, high system protected layer set, with protected being the highest and untrusted being the lowest. And the lower integrity levels could not access the memory or run as these higher integrity levels. So they wouldn't be able to get, like, say if you were a medium normal process running user, you couldn't get to high without, say, bypassing this user access control. So what this does is it protects and sandboxes in Windows, so these medium processes can't get to these high level things. So to do a UAC, to get to UAC, you either have to right click and run as administrator, or you have to use a bypass. So what this does, for example, is it prevents somebody from remoting into your box. Even if they have administrator, they have to either do a bypass or get a GUI and right click and run as administrator to actually do this UAC, to get to a high integrity level. So this is an extra layer of security that Windows added to help protect the system. Alrighty, file permissions are pretty similar. They have the same kind of basic read-write lists, or the read-write execute kind of deal. They're done. They're called through access controls in Windows, and this is kind of if you right-click and do properties on it, you can check all the file permissions out. So this is verified through the SIDs. So I'll just let you kind of read through them as I kind of talk about them. The read, pretty obvious. You can read files. write, and then execute. You can execute them. But then there's like stuff like list folder content. So this allows you to list all folder content. There's a lot of these, by the way. If you want to do some Googling, there you can find a bunch of them. But you can list folder contents, and that just allows you to view what's in the content without reading anything in it, executing, etc. And then there's you can read and execute. So you can read and execute the file, but you can't actually write to it. And then there's the full control, which is obviously another dangerous one you should look out for if in competition. Red team will want that. You probably don't want them to have it because they can do whatever they want to any of the files that have this permission. All right, the fun part, command line. This command line feels janky and old because it's DOS. All right, yeah, batch is fun, but it's actually really powerful once you get to use it. And you can also use PowerShell.exe in it, and then you can run a PowerShell command, which is also super useful. So if you just have console access to, say, a machine, you can still run PowerShell. So dir is kind of like ls in Linux. Type is like cat. So you can just print a file, which tells you where a file is located. Find is cool. It's not nearly as powerful as grep. So I mean, I haven't really used it too much extensively, but it's there. Feel free to use that. Move is self-explanatory. Clear is CLS. Don't know why. So I'm getting some useful ones that I find really useful for either information gathering or competition. Net, the whole net utility is super awesome. You can use net to check out groups. You can use net to check out the users on the system. There's a whole ton of stuff that you can do with net. And I would definitely recommend, if you're going to do any competitions or anything security, check out net. Something that I personally like to use is I like to use system info. It kind of just drops down a bunch of stuff about the system, like hot fixes that are in there, what kernel version's running. So it's super useful to just figure out what kind of environment you're working in if you're not sure which version of Windows, because there's like a bunch of versions of Windows 10 out already. So you could be running Windows 10, but it could be an extremely old one, and it could be very vulnerable. Netstat shows all the open network connections, just like in Linux. So it'll show you all the established, connect and waiting, that kind of stuff in Windows. And then there's a link, the slides will be posted. There's a link for some resources for more stuff about the command line. Oh, some additional things is / will give you a bunch of stuff where you can figure out what commands do. All right, PowerShell. PowerShell is fantastic, all right? This has been evolved so much in the last year. It's an extremely powerful tool. To start off, my biggest recommendation for PowerShell is have an idea in mind of what you want to do with it, because it's super powerful, but it's super specific. So this is kind of Microsoft, how they answered Bash. So this is when you have to have an idea of something in mind when doing this, because there is a lot of just you can CD around, look around, do a bunch of stuff, but there's a lot of object-oriented stuff in it. And if you're unfamiliar with objects, it's kind of like, for example, Java objects, if you know what that is. But I'll get into more of an example for it in a minute here, or I have a demo at the end which kind of displays the dot operator and how objects work. And then some basics for it. There's a lot of they have a lot of good documentation. It's very well documented. You'll see when I pull up, they have a PowerShell, it's ISE. There's a lot of good, it has a list of all the commands. If you request any commands, you can do a get help. And then there's just a whole bunch of documentation, Googling, and all sorts of stuff built into PowerShell that lets you get a better grasp on it. So here's some things to build on for the object. So everything's an object in there, which means you can fly a for each loop to it. And what this will do is, for example, in the picture, you have a get service, which will get all the Windows services. So now I have this big list of Windows services from get service, and you're going to pipe it over to for each and put it in a loop. So what this will do is it'll iterate through each one and print out all the information it has on it. And then the $_ is what the reference is in it. So this will allow you to print everything out. And then you can use dot operators to print out certain things. So say for get service, we want just the name of the service. So you do exactly what this is, but for the $_ you do dot name, and it will print out all the names of the service. And then there's a can stop option. It'll print out, can you stop this service? Is it available for it to be stopped? And there's the where object, which allows you to filter out input or filter out the output of a command to make it more cleanly, look more clean on your terminal. And then there's an important thing that I completely forgot about when I was making my little demo today. Set execute policy, remote signed, is one way to start running stuff. You have to allow PowerShell to run scripts. So running PowerShell in a command line itself is all right, but to run a script, you have to give it special permissions. All right, Active Directory. This is kind of the big one. This is the big one with Windows, why a lot of people like Windows Server so much. So the Active Directory domain service And this is what this allows you to manage all your users, computers, and all this other stuff within a domain, which is in a forest. So the high level stuff, the high level thing is called a forest. And in a forest, you can have lots of domains. Normally, you don't have more than one domain, but with these domains, inside of the domain, you manage. It's a tree structure. I mean, you can have containers, and then you have everything from users, groups, printers, etc. inside that domain, and you can manage everything in there. So also a side note, when you install, when you install AD on Microsoft Server, I believe DNS is also automatically installed with it, which is what, before I get onto that, Microsoft also has a lot of cloud-based things that AD is becoming very popular with, because it's very easy to then have a backup, and if your DC goes down, which is domain controller, with your Active Directory on it, you don't lose everything. All right, this is kind of the users that are important in Active Directory. So the enterprise administrator is the highest level administrator. They're in charge. They wanted to isolate the privileges so not everyone could do anything. So not everyone could do everything. So the enterprise administrator is in charge of all of it. So all the forests, all the domains, everything. If there's only one domain, then the enterprise admin's kind of like the domain administrator, because they're in charge of the domain. So if there's only one domain, they're kind of almost pretty much equal in power, because they have the same. There's only one domain. So they can, by default, domain admins can log in as a local administrator. So this is kind of a user you would really want to protect in competition or in the real world, is protecting this domain administrator, because if somebody gets this, they have access to your entire Windows domain or anything that's like joined to the domain of this server. So that's super powerful. And then DNS admins have access to all the DNS services. Schema admins have access to all the stuff, all the control flow of how the database of all the users and how it's structured. And the domain users are kind of those low level. They can't install programs. It's the average user. It's like Bob sitting at his computer. He has regular domain admin. All right, group policies. Another reason why people like Active Directory is it's extremely strong. So allows you to manage everything throughout the whole entire domain. So you have full control, nitty-gritty, tiny control over everything. And as you see, there's about 5,000 plus policies with group policy. So this allows you to do a ton of things and really get into full control of your users, what they're downloading, what they're doing, and all this other stuff. So some noteworthy ones: you can restrict local administrator accounts. That's a good one to do. You can restrict certain programs based off their name. So say you don't want malware.exe to launch because you think it's a little suspicious. You can disable people accessing the control panel and task manager, which if you've ever been on a high school computer, they do that a lot. So that's really annoying. But so you can have these nitty-gritty controls of disabling UI and doing all this stuff and making users not be able to do things that could possibly be malicious. Sysinternals. These are fantastic. These let you get really into Windows and see fine-grained stuff that's going on that the normal Process Explorer, say, wouldn't be able to get you. You can find out little things that are running, PIDs. You got the GUI version of NetStat. You got logging tools. And PSExec, we're going to talk a little bit more about right now. PSExec allows you to, it's pretty much SSH in Windows. It allows you to run remotely administrate stuff through the command line on Windows. So for example here, we run PSExec, we get an IP address, we give the user, and then we give cmd.exe, and it gives me a CMD shell, which now gives me remote access, which is awesome and allows us to do a ton of stuff. And then there are PowerShell versions as well. You can also run PowerShell through the CMD like I mentioned earlier, and that's where this comes into play. This is something I personally used a lot in competition, was PSExecing into stuff and using PowerShell. Fun things you could do, you shouldn't do because it's mean, in the labs is you can shut down computers through it by running shutdown.exe. Because it's a good meme. It's a good meme. Yeah, don't shut down people's live computers if they're doing work. But, for example, if you say you were in a competition environment and like say ISTS, you could shut down someone's computer if you knew their credentials. But that's about all I got for Windows. That was a little quick. Does anyone have any questions or anything? I'm going to do a quick demo or two. Anyone doesn't have any questions? We're good? All right. So we're going to do this. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Perfect. Alrighty. Oh, I know. It's a fresh install. It's great. Alrighty. It does have a license. So here's the ISE real quick. So I just wanted to give a quick demonstration of the code that was in the slides. So we have our get service and the for each loop there. Here, let me. I'm gonna extend this or not extend display so I can actually see it. No, I can't. It's really annoying. Also, I'm getting lots of notifications for some reason, which I don't understand. Windows P. Listen, all right, we're just. Yeah.
I'm getting blinded a little bit. It's too bright.
Alrighty. So for example, we have this. And so an example of dot operator. Alrighty. This isn't going to work. Yeah, this needs to be turned off. We're going to give this a minute. No, it's not going to work. I'm really trying, bro. I'm really trying. Alrighty. This will have to do. Alrighty. So here's what we got. Here's what we got. We're going to run it, and it's going to spit out a bunch. Alrighty. It's going to spit out all these services that are on my computer. That was loud. I'm sorry. It's going to spit out all the services that are running on my computer right now. So what we can do as a dot operator, like I was saying earlier, we can do dot name. It has nice autocomplete. And we're going to save it so I don't get asked again. We're going to run the script. And boom, it just spits out the names. So there's a lot of really powerful stuff you can do with this. And I'm going to drag another thing we got up there. All right. We'll do procmon. Here's procmon. Shows you a bunch of really cool things of what all the executables are doing on the system. And then we're going to do a good meme one here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, me too. Alrighty, very good. This is going to be a good one. I think you guys will like this. So this one is called auto runs, which shows you all your registry keys in a nice, easy, clean format that the Windows regedit does not do. So here's all my registry keys. I'm going to run my auto run program that I had showed previous weeks, and it's going to fill it up. And so you'll be able to see what it looks like. So I just ran it. And where's my mouse? There we go. Let's refresh in there. So now we see those are all bad. It's highlighting them. It's wonderful. So, and this allows you to give you a nice deeper insight to what's going on in your Windows operating system. And these are super useful tools and environments, and Red Team's going to probably do everything that they can to stop you from using them. So good luck and try to find them. That's all I got.
fierce flame, thoughts and vain. Hectic come from lights where I want more than this. Fury spent, never ending sight, but I want more than this. And if I fall, the world's too small. Truly, I want more than this. Your purity, a velvet sea, your eyes so blinding me.
They were off for like 2 hours though.
There we go.
Oh, was that actually getting audio now?
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Cool.
Beautiful. Alrighty.
Can you guys hear me on stream? Did they say yes? Because I can't see it.
Let me pull up the Twitch chat. Somebody posted this.
Oh God. Twitch chat. Twitch chat. Oh God. What'd you say? Cool. All right, everybody. Welcome to. Hi, Simon. Welcome to week 3 and the research segment for it. So, first off, I'm going to give a big old shout out to our sponsors. Thank you very much to all of you. This is what makes Club happen, what lets us get pizza every Friday, and what lets us put all of our events on. So, thank you very much to our Diamond, Platinum, Gold, and educational sponsors. You guys are all super important to actually helping make this club happen, and we really appreciate it. All right, so this week we have the swag interest forum set up. We're going to look at doing another swag order in the very near future. Right, Adriana?
Yeah, so you're going to be ordering it yourselves.
Yeah, so we're doing a custom ink thing so that they can do a storefront. Similar swag that a bunch of people have been wearing today. Actually, it's the same exact stuff. So if you guys are interested in it, definitely check out swaginterest.ritsec.club. And it will ship to alumni and stuff, right?
Yeah, there will be more information on it.
All right, cool. More information coming soon, TM. So Career Fair, it's coming up in 2 weeks. And we're going to be hosting a resume session next Tuesday, the 17th, in one of the labs. Keep a lookout for the workplace event because somebody just set that up very recently. On Sunday, we are going to be watching Swordfish at 6:30 in 1400. Be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited. So, just as you guys might have noticed, we are now streaming on YouTube and Twitch. So if you guys wanted to go jump in the Twitch chat at home, follow along through there. So I was going to try something a little different for this week's news, but I didn't actually get any people to send me anything. So going forward, what I want to do for news is I want to know what you guys want to hear about. So either send me links to articles you want to hear about, and I'll kind of research them and try and do a deep dive on the Fridays, or send me a topic and I'll see what I can do. But the best thing is send me an article, and if I get enough, then you'll be featured. I forgot to take that out, but that's the link for the Windows VM for demo time earlier. And that's the last slide in the presentation. So, on that note, let's talk a little bit about news. So, the US just launched a couple sanctions on some North Korean hacking groups because of a couple huge breaches last year. Not hugely surprising news. It's pretty standard. They're just sanctioning and saying, yeah, that's not cool, and we should really avoid encouraging this in the future. So setting a precedent to actively kind of fight against it. This one was really cool. It talks about how some Arizona schools were down for 2 days for ransomware, but were back up on the Monday after this. So they got hit on a Wednesday. Thursday and Friday they were closed, not because they didn't actively have, or not because they didn't have any issues with their network, but because they wanted to say, we need to make sure everything's eradicated from